EAGLES, Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday morning edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen. Just 2 days out from the 2026 start of the NFL Draft. An exciting time in Eagle Land and all across the NFL world. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, my friend?
Doing well. We're almost there. And it's always, I think you always get to the finish line on fumes because, all of a sudden all the, this guy's taking this player and blah, blah, blah. Silly season really ramps up in those last 48 hours. And it's good to get to it. But there'll be some surprises. There always are. And that's what Howie always says. You can't dictate the board. So, some of these teams will go off perception, and all of a sudden you have to be nimble on your feet and be able to react to that. So, he also says expect the worst and prepare, obviously for the better. But, you got to be comfortable in the Eagles instance with 23 players at least, and that's what you try to get there.
Well, we'll see if they end up doing that, Johnny Mack. It's going to be interesting. What are you hearing, John, as we get closer? Anything that you're hearing where a player might be rising, a player might be falling? Any late draft talk coming out that you think is relevant for how the board might go on Thursday night?
Well, I think the Greenard trade is back in, second round pick. Maybe they convince him for a third and something else. But I think that's heavily in play for the Eagles. There's some other edge rushers, potentially. Pittsburgh could move on from Highsmith or Herbig. So there's two options there. So I do think that's going to be a likely scenario. And I said, if I were taking a prop bet, my prop bet was Howie doesn't pick at 23. So my guess is they'll try to move up. If they can't, they'll try to move down. That'll probably be a little bit more difficult because I think a lot of teams are thinking that way. Personally, I'm starting to, went full circle. When we started this thing, Jeff Stoutland was still here, and I said Caden Proctor, and now he's gone. And I still think it might be Caden Proctor after hearing all the talk. But a couple reasons. One, you can start him at guard, kick him out to right tackle. Two, he is athletic for his size. Even though he's a power-based player, he should be able to handle the athletic part of it, at least to the wide zone stuff, at least to an acceptable degree. Now, does he make it to 23? I doubt it. I look at Detroit specifically at 17. I think that might be his floor. So can you get to 16? Well, I don't think you can if you're also trading for an edge rusher. Right. But I think that would be the most realistic player for the Eagles. I'm not talking about, obviously, they'd love to have some of the top 10 picks, but that's not realistic. So anybody sort of realistic, I think he would be. I'm leaning on him as number one.
There you go. Good stuff, Johnny Mack. Going to be interesting to see how the board falls, John. The other interesting thing here is now you got the New York Football Giants, all right, with two picks here in the top 10. So I'm curious to see what they do. They have kind of the world is their oyster, if you will, with the way they're going. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Commanders at pick 7, Cowboys at 12 and 20. So the Giants get to a better spot than the Cowboys with their 2 picks at 5 and 10. So what do you think of the NFC East here and who they might target? I know yesterday you said you expect the Giants to look to try and acquire Sonny Styles. Do they go double defensive? Do they look to go to the interior of the D-line? I don't really see anybody there at 10 overall to fill that role. Commanders at 7, Cowboys 12 and 20, and then obviously the Eagles at the back end of all of them in the NFC East at pick number 23. John, how do you see the NFC East kind of managing this draft on Thursday night?
Well, I do think, obviously the Giants are interesting having 2 picks, so I definitely one of them is gonna be defense, one of them I think is gonna be, offensive line. I don't think there's any question about that. Um, Little bit of Caleb Downs talk, late, so to me, it's gonna come down to the 2 Ohio State players for them, Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. Um I don't know if you can go wrong. Personally, I like Caleb Downs better. You can think about John Harbaugh, how he used Kyle Hamilton. I don't think he's that good, Caleb Downs, but you could see that type of player that he would like to have. And then offensive line, if you get Mawagoa, we know what a disaster the offensive line has been with the Giants, and they definitely need to address that situation. So that to me makes a lot of sense. The Cowboys all defense, so if they can get Sonny Styles, definitely pass rusher as well. So pass rusher would probably be at 20. Um, Not in love with those guys. If I said as I said, I think they would like Messidor to fall to that spot, which is a possibility. I've heard some people say he's a second round pick. So that's a guy who I could see going 15 to Tampa and in the second round. And I think you have a lot of players like that with wide range of outcomes. Ty Simpson's one. I mean, he could be a first round pick, and he could, I don't know if there's any. You look at Cleveland specifically, you look at Arizona, you look at the Jets. I don't think all three are interested. And you know, if one of them doesn't like him in the first round, he could start to drift pretty significantly. Um, so there's a lot of players like that in this draft. Jordan, um, it's Tyson is going up. He's going to be, in my opinion, the top wide receiver in the draft. Now, I don't agree with that. I think Carnell Tate's better, but the NFL, they get enamored by athleticism, and obviously he's the better athlete. I'd prefer the better football player, but that's me. And I don't want to say boom or bust, but there's a way higher level going in a negative direction. So, and then to me, Vega is a guy I've talked about a lot, and where he lands, that'll be interesting to me because guard um, is not as valued as tackle. And you could argue it should be now in the NFL. You used to have that discussion with right tackle versus left tackle, which you don't have as much anymore. And I don't know if you should have as much with guards. I mean, they're just as valuable because if you give up interior pressure, that might even be worse than giving up edge pressure. And I would argue it is worse. So if you can get one of the best players in the draft in the mid-range 15 to 20 level, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. And then some of the cornerbacks, because A, I don't think they're very good. B, and I shouldn't say that there's holes, I think, in all their games, but teams are so desperate for corners. I think they get pushed up the board now. Everybody looking for Quignon. I don't think you're finding Quignon in this draft anywhere with any of these players. And then as you get to the second level, I mean, Chris Johnson's a guy who everybody thinks I've heard is going to buzz and be a first round. I'm like, I think maybe a third round pick. He's getting pushed up the board. So, maybe teams come to their senses. Blake Miller's interesting for the standpoint, and Max Ianasure, the guys we've talked about a lot because of the Eagles and tackles. They could both be first rounders. I could see Miller going early, and I could see him going in the second round. Same with Ianasure. It's the same way. So you have a lot of those players, and defensive tackles. I mean, because that's another position. There's so few of them. And probably none of them belong in the first round, but probably maybe 2 will go because everybody needs a defensive tackle, or except the Eagles, and there aren't any. So if you don't get Peter Woods, if you don't get somebody like that, you're gonna be sifting through things on day 3 and trying to find a dart throw.
No doubt about it. It's gonna be interesting to see what the Eagles do. John, what's the position the Eagles have to walk away with before the end of day 2, which is the end of round 3? Like, what's the position they need? A lot of it depends on the way the board falls with who they might draft in round 1, but they got a couple picks there. What's the one position they got to have by the end of day 2?
Well, I honestly, and it's not a cop out. I mean, I'm going to say edge rusher because I know
I'm
that's
with
their
you.
biggest need. But I Howie does such a good job of draft. Like, I think they could play a game tomorrow and be competent. Like, you're not going to be happy with it, but so I have a difficult time saying, they have to have anything because you're not going to have everything. It's not possible in the NFL. So again, I look at these teams and I look at the draft proofing part of it. Could you play a game tomorrow if you had to? Eagles are one of probably 3 or 4 teams that could play a game tomorrow if they had to, because you can play Marcus Epps at safety or Michael Carter at safety. You have 4 edge rushers. Yeah, you're not going to Nolan Smith or Jalen Hunt aren't headliners. Maybe Jalen has that upside, but they're good players. They're good players. And Arnold Ebikete's there and Joe Tryon's there. They can be rotational guys. And Vickle, if only one of them hits, he'll cut it down to 3, the rotation, as he has the last 2 years. So they could play a game tomorrow. Again, but it's an obvious need to me. Safety's an obvious need as well. But they can play a game. Everybody was thrilled with the way Marcus Epps played, it seemed, down the stretch. No, I don't think that's the way to go. And you want to get somebody, and they'll probably, Traden Stukes is one of, and Jalen Kilgore are the 2 safeties that have been linked to the Eagles the most because they both have that slot safety versatility that Vic likes. Stukes is probably going to go too high, I would think. Kilgore, though, he might fall to early in the 3rd round, that first 3rd round pick, if you still have it. If the goal is to trade for Greenard, you're going to lose your 2nd round pick or that early 3rd round pick. So, but I mean, I'd make that trade all day long if they could pull that off. And the contract is part of it as well, because they weren't willing to pay Jalen Phillips. So how high would they go for Jonathan Greenard? Will they make him happy? So that's part of it as well. Yeah. So a lot of interesting things, but Sadiq will be interesting where he lands because obviously he's got an enormous upside as a receiving tight end, but I don't think a lot of teams are looking for tight ends, partially because there's so many good tight ends in this draft. And I think a lot of people are thinking, probably like the Eagles are thinking, well, we can get a player, on even day 3 that could probably do some nice things for us. And so I don't know. Tough to find a fit for him in the first round. There's Baltimore, again, he can go 14, he can go 15 to Tampa, he could slide down to the end of the first round. If those teams decide to go in a different direction.
If he's there at 23, Eagles got to think about it, right?
Well, you would think. I don't think they do it. I'm sure they would think about it, but I don't think they do it. And now you have to I should mention wide receiver, obviously. I mean, for all we're lying to you about AJ. I mean, the fact that he's not a voluntary work, I got people spin it like it's voluntary. He's always there. Always. He's a rookie minicamp. All the dude does is work out. He's always there. That is the dead understand. It should be to everybody that okay, he's not coming back.
You can. I mean, everybody else was there too for the most part. I don't know who wasn't there. It's obviously not a mandatory thing, but Hurts was there. Saquon was there. I saw Devontae Smith was there. Basically all the big guns were there, Johnny Mac, except for AJ.
And he's always there. I mean, his history is he's always there. There are certain guys that don't go to all voluntary work around the league. So you think, that's not that big of a deal, but he's always there. So wide receivers got to be put back into the equation. But again, I'm not in love. I think the Eagles are like everybody else. They'd love to go get Jordan Tyson, which I'm not. But that's not realistic at this. I think he's going top 10. So.
Wow, you think his pro day was that good, huh? Jordan
Well,
Tyson?
no, I think people are enamored. He did what he was supposed to do.
Yeah. Are you enamored with him?
No, not at all. Best ability is availability. He's always hurt. Number one, he had to do his late pro day because he couldn't get back from a hamstring injury to do the combine or Arizona State's pro day. So no, I would not. I'm not. I've said pretty consistently, except for Tate, and I'm sure a bunch of them will be good players. I'm sure Mekhi Lemon will be a good player. But the late first round guys, Denzel Boston, Chris Brazil maybe goes there. I'm not. I'd rather go for the Omar Cooper is a good player. Omar Cooper's probably, I think he's better than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of him in round one.
Yeah, I think he's going to go first round.
You do? Yeah. Toward the end in the 20.
NFL teams, I could see him going 16 to the Jets.
Wow. Okay, so pretty high.
NFL teams like him a lot. I think more than the draft universe. Concepcion's sort of a guy that is all over the place. Some teams love him. Some teams say that's second rounder. But I think the value on day two is just so much better at wide receiver than it is on day one. And the Eagles have been looking at these big, rangy receivers. Again, another highlight of AJ's probably not going to be here. Mentioned Deshaun Stribling from Ole Miss. That probably wouldn't work out too well, but big fast guys. Caleb Douglas from Texas Tech, Ted Hurst. A lot of teams like him, but played at a low level with Georgia State. Guys like that, but they're all huge, rangy guys to try to replicate AJ Brown's, size and that part of it. But so those guys could be that late third round pick. I could see that. And I think that's pretty good value at that stage.
How high could the Eagles go here, John? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16?
I think the highest they could go is 16, 17 range, and the Jets might want to move out, especially if they want to get Simpson, which I don't think they want to get Simpson, but
I think
they might be willing to move out. I don't think Detroit's moving out. They're 17. I forget who 18 is. I gotta look.
18's Minnesota.
18's their GM's not allowed to do anything, evidently. So they're staying put. Well, they might trade Greenard, but they've told to trade. He's very limited in what he can do.
That Greenard trade is not sounding all that good to me.
Boy, I think it'd be a steal. If you're giving up 54 for him, what you're not getting a pass rusher like that at 54.
Yeah, but are you giving up the second round pick and $30 million for a 30-year-old
Well,
edge?
I think 25. You know, 20.
25. Why would he take 25?
I don't worry about the money because it's not my money. B,
No,
I
but we're just trying to
I'm
talk
more
about it from a football perspective in terms of
no, but
building
I
a roster.
more question like why didn't they pay Jalen Phillips? You know, that to me is the bigger question. You know, because Howie's usually very in tune of, you know, where the market's going, and you see the Will Anderson deal, and it's like, well, guess what, dude? And the Eagles have been better. You know, the longer you wait, it's only going up, and you're seeing that already. You know, Greenard, the reason he's on the trade market is he's underpaid. I think 19.
Yeah,
And he wanted 25. And now he might want more. Why? Because of Will Anderson.
That was a crazy contract for Will.
And Howie knows that better than anybody. That's why he signs these guys early. So I'm like, what's the difference between 25 and 30? Really? What's the difference? You know, you can have a good player, and that's a player Vic wants. And by that, I think Greenard's a better pass rusher, as I said. But Vic loves Phillips. He had him in Miami, had tremendous success with him here, loves the person. Yeah, I think we're going to look back on that and say, that was probably a mistake. That was probably a mistake. But then again, you know, he'll go to Carolina. They'll expect him to be a 10-sack guy consistently, and maybe he flames out there and it goes the other direction. But I just think he was a perfect fit for the Eagles. So I would have paid him.
Well, we'll see if the Eagles make that move for Greenard. John, how do you see his fit in with Vic Fangio in terms of, you know, is he a 3-down guy? Is he going to be taken off the field? He can be a 3-down guy.
Yeah, he's been a 3-down guy for years. He's good against the run. Not as big, but explosive. Eagles fans are going to love that dude. He is so explosive on the pass rush. He's always around the quarterback, even when he doesn't get home. They're going to love that guy. They haven't had a pass rusher like that since the Hassan Reddick year. And even that, I think he's more consistent than Hassan was. I'm not saying he's getting 20 whatever sacks, but because that was the highlight of Hassan Reddick's career. I think Eagles fans are going to love him if they can get him. As soon as they see him, they're going to fall in love.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it is going to be a pretty price to pay for. How old is Greenard? 29, right?
28-ish, 29-ish. Yeah,
he'll be 29 next month in May. In May. So, you know, he's 29 years old coming into the year. How do you see that? 2-year, 3-year deal? What do you see there?
Well, I think he's got 2 years left. I haven't looked at his contract. So, I mean, generally.
He's a Florida Gator. You know who else is a Florida Gator, everybody listening?
Howie Roseman.
Howie Roseman.
So did you see Joe Douglas's kid is going to Florida?
Is that right?
Yeah. And Dave Caldwell is the GM of Florida. Colleges have GMs now. Dave was here as a senior advisor to Howie for the past three or so years till he got the Florida job. Guess who got him the Florida job? Or a big part of it. So, yeah, there's a lot of Florida connections with Howie, but I think that's not. He's been in the league for a while. But yeah, he's under contract through 2027. But, you know, the guaranteed money is up after this year. So it's one of those deals. You have to guarantee the money up front and tweak the deal. So, but I mean, talk about people wanting to compete now. This is a compete now type of player. I'll tell you that. So, and that turns that move turns your edge rushing room into one of the best in the NFL because everything falls into place.
Greenard. Who would be the two? Jalix?
I think Nolan, because Greenard plays mostly on the right side or has, and Nolan's, when Jalen Phillips got there, he played more on the right. Nolan can do either, but he's really good. Old school football, the left end would be this run support end, and he's really good at setting the edge. Nolan Smith, even though despite his size. So I think it will impact Jalix Hunt more than Nolan Smith. But again, and Jalix would have to play more on the left side as well. But he's done it and he can do it as well. So I think Jalix has a bigger upside than Nolan now, but Nolan's a really good player. It's just, he's got to stay healthy. And I don't know if he's going to stay healthy with his shoulder issues and his lack of size. And he's already, torn the triceps essentially. Well, I don't think he tore it the second time, but it was really impacting him. So,
well, and you go back to that comment his rookie year.
Yeah, that's my baby.
Sometimes it
works. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. And then I think,
John, the deadline for teams to pick up the 5th-year option on 2023 first-round picks is May 1st, which is fast approaching. Eagles have Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter. I expect both of them to get picked up. Which one's the placeholder, which one's not, we will find out. You do expect both of them to get picked up, correct?
Yeah. I wouldn't lose any sleep over that. They're both going to get picked up. Yeah. But you're right.
What will the Carter one be?
Yeah, it's pretty high. Carter's is like 27, 28.
Yeah.
Because he made 2 Pro Bowls. It's a if you reach certain goals, it goes way up. And he hit the top level, Jalen Carter. So his is like 28-ish. Nolan Smith is much more manageable because he hasn't reached. There's also playing time goals, and he hasn't reached that either because he's always hurt and he doesn't reach that snap level. So he's at the lowest level, which is like, I have to look it up, but 14 million maybe. So, basically half of what Jalen Carter will be getting. So it's pretty easy.
Like 27.1 for Carter.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to pick up Nolan's option.
That's crazy, Carter's number. That's higher than the top 2 quarterbacks that were drafted, 1 and 2, and Bryce Young and CJ
because he made 2 Pro Bowls.
All right.
Spikes it.
Boy,
14 Nolan Smith is 14.42, which is tier 4, the lowest tier. Which basically means no Pro Bowls and failure to reach 75% of the defensive snaps in any year. So he's at the lowest tier. So that's pretty easy to pick up. Now, the question is, obviously, they're trying to extend Jalen Carter. I don't think they're trying to extend Nolan Smith yet, and they're going to see what happens this year.
I agree. That's exactly how I see it playing. Johnny Mac, good show. Good start to the show today. Good segment. We're going to do a little Eagle-only mock today. I know, Johnny Mac, get ready for that. So we'll do that in hour number 2. I want to thank everybody for being here. We got some super chats we will get to, and I do have to talk to John a little bit more about some of the things that came out yesterday or over the weekend, about the team. The team was in the building yesterday, so it was good to see the Eagles social staff putting up some pictures of the players. Football is coming soon, folks. The off season is cruising. Before you know it, it'll be September what, John? What's the opener of the year this year? September 4th? NFL?
Oh, no, that seems early, but I don't know.
September 9th, Wednesday, September 9th.
Wednesday. Give me a break.
Why? Why, NFL? Are you playing on a Wednesday?
Wednesday. like an NBA game.
Wednesday night, Thursday
Wednesday
night,
in
Friday
Memphis.
night. Well, that's why they're going to start the first week with Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday. Wouldn't be surprised if they tossed in a Saturday game there too. Take over college.
You know, WrestleMania was this weekend, and I didn't get.
I know. I
see
forgot to
it.
ask you about
Well, I haven't really watched it because I had some stuff going on, but I got to go back. But it was amusing because, I always said the NFL tries to drain every fan for every single penny, and TKO, which is owns WWE, UFC, bunch of other stuff. Man, they are just money grubbing. You know what? And there was somebody. The internet's undefeated. So Bianca Belair, I did see. Huge woman star got pregnant, and she announced that she was pregnant, and she took off. It was weird. She had this weird. She normally in tremendous shape, and she wore this very weird looking outfit. And the reason why is she was going to reveal that she was pregnant. She got a little bit of a baby bump, and so somebody on the internet, hat tip to them, put Credit One Bank right on the baby bump because they sell everything. There's like 57 sponsors on the ring now,
amazing,
on the
man.
ring, on the turnbuckles, everywhere. Just commercials all over the place. Oh, it's awful. It's just awful. So hat tip to that person who put.
I assume she did not have a match then, right?
No, she did not. She's been out for a while, injured, and then I think everybody was excited she was coming back, but now she's pregnant, so she can't come back.
There you go. That's interesting. Who won Roman versus CM Punk?
Roman Reigns. So
Yeah,
acknowledge the tribal chief. He is back.
There you go, tribal chief. All right, here we go. We got a couple super chats we will get to, and then we'll get into some conversation about some of the Eagles stuff yesterday, them being on the field yesterday, and then also we will get into that Eagle only mock. We'll run through it all. We are 2 days out from the NFL draft, so I wanted to do that for everybody, and I'll have John configure the settings based on what he thinks. Here's Niall. Niall says this: why are the Eagles so desperate to help out the Patriots? Why are they not using AJ for an edge rusher? No, what you mean desperate to help the Patriots?
Yeah, they're not desperate to help the Patriots. They're trying to move on. And I find it interesting. Not that James Palmer's doing anything, but I do want to plug the show again because now you're getting some of the national guys, and it was James Palmer who put in. Why wouldn't Howie Roseman prefer the A.J. Brown trade compensation to be 27 or 28? Right now, the Patriots are picking 31st in each of the first 3 rounds. There are certainly people around the NFL that believe New England could be slated for a step back in 2026 for a variety of reasons. Yeah, everybody thinks they're taking a step back. Yeah. But if you listen to this show, you already heard. So, of course, you're getting a better draft pick. And again, people are starting to realize, yeah, Howie can do that. Other GMs can't because he knows he's going to be around to take those picks. So whether it's 27 or 28, it might have to be conditional, but he's going to be able to get a first round pick. So anyway, to answer the question, he's not trying to help the Patriots. He's trying to help the Eagles. And that's always his goal. But yeah. So
also gives you optionality in a year. Next year, there's supposed to be a lot of quarterbacks in case the offense.
Well, yeah, and the drafts are supposed to be better as well. Now that can go in a different direction, but no, and there are no. I get it. The fans are brought up on whatever Madden, and we'll just trade him for Max Crosby. It doesn't work that way. The Raiders don't want AJ Brown. Why? Because they stink. Why?
They're drafting a quarterback. I mean, I can't think of a better way to help a rookie quarterback play his first games than put a receiver.
Well, he's going to be playing with. He's going to be playing with Kirk Cousins early, which will be nice for Kirk.
It'd be great. It might be good for AJ too, John.
Well, yeah, it probably would be.
Ask Justin Jefferson about Kirk Cousins. Yeah. He got him paid, baby.
The point is, AJ is going to be out even in the best case scenario, AJ is going to be in decline when Fernando Mendoza hits his stride.
Right.
So that's kind of the mentality of young teams and why they don't want veteran receivers necessarily with young quarterbacks who need to develop. And by the way, AJ would be friggin' miserable with Fernando Mendoza throwing him the football early. Because that ain't going to be pretty. So, anyway, there you go.
Well, we'll see. Here's Devin Shanahan. What's up, Devin? He says this. I'm a fantasy player. I know that's not J-Mac's thing, but could John give us his top 5 skill position players in order? I would love his input. Devin, that's
dude, you don't want my input on fantasy football. I don't know anything about it. No, I don't know how it's even scored.
Skill position players, because skill position players equal fantasy points, John.
Well, I know, but no, volume equals fantasy points. So, the best players aren't always the volume players. But, I mean, obviously the best player in the draft to me is Jeremiah Love. So if you listen to this show. But, he might go.
I don't think he's talking draft picks. I think he's talking league.
Oh, league?
I think.
Yeah, you don't want my opinion on that. That's stat guys. Look who's the best stat guys. But I am not. I've never played fantasy football. I don't know how it's done. I don't know how it's great. I played
last year for the first time with the JAKIB group in the first time in like 10 years. I did all right.
It goes all the way back to Troy Aikman. I may have taken that story. I may have told that story. Troy Aikman wasn't a very good fantasy player because he didn't have big numbers because they were, run first with Emmitt Smith. And, I had all these fantasy people. Aikman sucks. And, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I'm like, all right, I want no part of this. And I have never played fantasy football a day in my life, and I never will. So you probably don't want advice from me.
You go, give me some skill position players you like, John.
What do you mean? The skill positions players like Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson. I mean, everybody knows AJ Brown.
No, don't take AJ Brown. Don't do that.
I'm saying those are the best skill position players. George Kittle's been the best tight end for years. He's probably not the best fantasy guy.
There you go. That's a couple good ones. Jamar, Christian McCaffrey. I think those are the two.
He's probably a good fantasy, but when he's healthy, because he does.
Christian,
everything.
Yeah, I think he's one of the better ones.
Because he does everything, but yeah. My advice is to get away from fantasy football.
Here's Jerry. Jerry says this. Devin, thank you, brother. Devin says he started a tangent. Devin, well done. That's a feather in the cap, my friend.
Get away from fantasy football.
Jerry says, hey, J-Mac, if Garrett Nussmeier is there in round 3, do you think they take him? It sure looks like the writing is on the wall for Hurts. I would like to have a prospect just in case.
No, but it's interesting. I by the way, because I started my Eagles only draft, and but I didn't finish it. Now Garrett Nussmeier they found a cyst on his spine.
Yeah, I saw that.
That he had a bunch of abdomen issues, and evidently it was caused by that pressing on a nerve or whatever. So I think he might drop a little bit. And I got him. I'll tell you right now, I got the Eagles taking him with that first pick in the 4th round. If he falls to day 3, which I think he might. So yeah, they've long been interested since Doug was here. And, to get that guy who's, everybody was like, he's going to be a top 10 pick. And then he has a bad year at LSU, partially because he's playing through injuries. So I think a lot of, so it can go two ways. A lot of NFL teams will look at that and say, well, look at this kid playing through what he played through, and he's a gamer. And the type of talent he had. We all had him as a, first round pick. and it could move them up. But if there's concern and cyst on the spine, I'd be concerned about. So I think he might drop a little bit. And if he's there with that first, I don't think they take him in the 3rd round, but that first pick in the 4th round, I think that's the sweet spot. And he might fall there now. So, I mean, they don't have a ton of picks anymore. The trade with Dontavian Wicks. So they come in with 8 picks. They only have 4 day 3 picks. So they don't have a 7th round pick. So it's hard to say they're going to take a quarterback, but it wouldn't surprise me if they take a quarterback, and if it's Garrett Nussmeier.
Have the Eagles done any work on the quarterbacks, at least publicly, like for top 30s? Or
yeah,
anything?
I mean they've been lower. Let me look up his name. I forget his name.
I thought they brought in the Illinois kid, right?
Yeah, the Illinois kid. I don't think they brought him in, but they had some kind of Zoom meeting or something. Luke Altmaier, to me, he'd be like, though, he's like a priority free agent, 7th round guy, and they don't have a 7th round pick. So I think he'd be more the priority free agent if they don't draft somebody. Drew Aller, they have some interest in. Cole Payton, the North Dakota State kid, and Garrett Nussmeier, the 3 I've sort of heard they have some interest in. And like I said, they know Garrett very well from when Doug was here. And they've always liked him. So, yeah, I'd keep an eye on Garrett Nussmeier if he starts to fall a little bit.
Good stuff there. We'll see what they end up doing and that with the quarterbacks in the draft. If anything, Jerry, thank you for the big super chat, brother. We appreciate that. Here's Alexander Harris, member for 20 months. Thank you, Harris. Appreciate you, brother. He says, so do you see them picking up Nolan's 5th, but signing Jalen Carter to a long-term deal? It's kind of how I see it, but they'll do both, right? Pick up the place.
They're going to pick up both. I mean, the timing of when they work out the long-term deal with Jalen Carter, they'll use the 5th-year option as a placeholder, and then they'll roll the extension into the final year to make it a little bit better for the cap purposes. And then, the really blockbuster ones, it's very unlikely, but if Myles Garrett becomes available, you might have to give him up, something like that. But very unlikely. So, yeah, they're already working on an extension for Jalen Carter. But the problem is he's coming off a poor season. The Eagles are probably trying to lowball him. Drew Rosenhaus probably wants to set the market. So it's a little bit more complicated. It's not as easy as it once looked.
I wonder where that number is going to come in for Jalen Carter. Feels like it could be all over the place right now just because of the season last year and probably what the player wants. You would think, hey, it'll be $35 million. But after last year, it's tough to do that. You would understand, obviously, why the agent would want that. But you'd also understand why the Eagles wouldn't want to go there after last season.
Well, yeah. So he might have to prove he's healthy and he's back to be in the
Is that
player.
the Eagles playing with fire, in your opinion? I mean, what if somebody comes
a little bit? We just talked about it with Phillips.
Yeah, right.
It's probably only going up. You already got Dexter Lawrence, Dexter's no longer in New York because of Jordan Davis's contract. So for the people that think, well, what does Will Anderson have to do with the Eagles? What does Dexter Lawrence? It all, when you're at the top of the market, you start looking at, and even if you're a guy like Greenard, you say, well, I'm underpaid. I want $25 million. Then you see Will Anderson, and you're like, I'm underpaid. I want $30 million. It all affects. Rising tide lifts all boats. That's what they say.
Yep. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. A lot of contract discussions to be had, here in Philadelphia, especially in the next coming 12 to 24 months, which we will follow, obviously, here on Birds 365. All through the regular season, we are 2 days out from the first round of the NFL draft. That'll take place on Thursday night, rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, and then rounds 4 through 7 on Saturday. Eagles have no 7th-round picks right now. So they have, John, you said just 4 picks they have on day 3?
Yeah. Right now, as we start the process, because they gave up the 1 5th-rounder for Tavian Wicks, which I'd give it up. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, me neither.
So yeah, 4 on days 1 and 2, and 4 on day 3.
So we'll see what they do with them. My guarantee is Howie's not going to be picking at all those spots. He'll shake and bake. Could turn into more picks, could turn into less picks, but he'll be trading all over the board. John, sometimes Howie will trade so much on day 3, your head spins. I'm just going to be live for it all. Jerry says,
if you go back to the original, the Eagles have already made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trades that affected this draft class as a whole. And their day 3 picks are 114 and 137. Those are 4th-rounders. 178 in the 5th, 197 in the 6th, and that's it. They don't have a 7th-round pick, which was traded to Jacksonville to get Fred Johnson back last year. So their original 7th-round pick.
Right, there you go. Jerry says, I want to help this channel grow. Jerry, thank you, man. You being here helps us. I'd like to send you some money every month. You have PayPal, etc. I'll send every 3rd of the month. Jerry, I'll hit you up. I mean, we do super chats, we do memberships, and you can also become a member on the website as well, which helps as well. So we get a little bigger cut from the website. YouTube, John, YouTube goes like this. They're like the government. You want to be on YouTube, it's like, we'll take 30 to 40%, 40% of every dollar.
Of course.
Everybody's got to get their cut. So that's YouTube for you. But the website's a little more beneficial to us. But Jerry, we appreciate it, man. We don't need you to go to the ends of the earth for it. All right, Johnny Mac, I got to ask you about yesterday. All right, we only had a brief minute to talk about it. Well, we talked about it, but we talked about it with Kerr, and we talked about it but we didn't have our own chance to talk about it for 20 minutes. The Jalen Hurts post of Scott Loeffler, I think, could be taken a lot of different ways. It could also be not taken as negative or as or with as much meaning as maybe some people took it. After a couple days here, you wrote an article about it. I did read your article. We talked about it yesterday on the show. To me, John, it made me almost think Nick, Howie, and Jalen are all operating on their own island. Not in a way that they're trying to take away from one another, but just in a way that they're trying to protect themselves a little bit more. Howie has a chance to defend Jalen. He says he defends his front office. Jalen goes back and slashes back at Nick and maybe the coaching changes by posting up the coach they just fired 60 days ago in Scott Loeffler. And then there's Nick, who hasn't made any public comment on it. What's your thought?
Yeah, by the way, he did. I asked, I actually asked Nick that before the combine when he talked to us. I said, why Parks Frazier? At the time, I was not that they moved on from Scott Loeffler. That didn't, really register, because that's just life in the NFL more than anything else. And I didn't think much about it, other than the question was more about why Parks Frazier, because this comes into an interesting year where, in theory, Jalen Hurts is going to have to improve his technique and fundamentals, doing stuff he's uncomfortable with. So I think the quarterback, the position coach, is about that. That's the guy working with Jalen every single day. And as I said, Scott's been a long-time quarterbacks coach. I mean, decades. So he's got extensive experience. Parks Frazier, now he was a quarterback in college, so he's got some expertise with the position, but his entire career in the NFL has been nothing to do with quarterback. I shouldn't say that, because he's been a long-time passing game coordinator, which obviously, but it's a different job. It's not, you're not hands-on. You're not doing the dirty work with the technique and the fundamentals. So I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, and at the time, I didn't know that whether Jalen Hurts liked Scott Leffler, whether he disliked. You remember that Hard Knocks little clip where it's sort of like, that it was 10 seconds and not even, and I couldn't even understand what he said, but didn't look happy. So you start to think this, well, maybe Jalen doesn't like Scott Leffler. Well, what this says is he does. I mean, you said people can take it a lot of ways. I asked yesterday, how can you take it in any other way? He obviously likes the guy.
Yeah, he's choosing to work out with him in the
offseason.
Yeah.
So, and you have all this, and I think people forget, they talk about the offensive coordinator and the lack of continuity. Well, what about quarterbacks coach? He's gone from Brian Johnson to Alex Tanney to Doug Nussmeier to Scott Leffler to now Parks Frazier. 5 different quarterbacks coach in the last 5 years. And that to me is more important than coordinator because, again, that's the guy working with them every day in practice, working on the footwork.
Right. Jalen spends more time with the quarterback coach than anybody else, right?
Correct. And that's the day-to-day guy. And, the offensive coordinator, passing game court, that's more all-encompassing with the offense.
So do you think he was sending a message by that post or no? Are we reading too far into it?
Well, I mean, my take was, it was a little bit, signaling, hey, I like this guy, And to me, like when it comes off of the theory that, well, the Eagles are trying to send a message to Jalen Hurts. Well, I think this was, if not sending a message back to the Eagles, it was sending a message to the outside world. Look, it's not me that wants to move on from these people. So, put the highlight on them. So, which way do you want? You want continuity? Obviously, you like the guy. Well, maybe he didn't. Maybe he's, but then you're really going down layers. You're saying he specifically didn't like him, but he's showing the Eagles up by working with them in the offseason. That's some really nasty stuff. That would even be worse. So, yeah, I don't. It was strange. It was strange. And for all that, and I'd say it's one of the lesser things known about the NFL because I get these questions all the time. You'll see somebody come into the building to sign a contract, and I'll get from fans, it's so good he's in the building and already and blah blah blah. No, he's in the building to sign, then he's leaving. It's collectively bargained. You can't do anything. You can't meet with coaches. You can't. That's one I joked about when Saquon was, and you see all these stories about how he loves the new offense. And then in the same interview, he said, well, what do you like about it? And then he said, well, we're not allowed to talk about it. It's like,
I don't know yet. I haven't been told anything.
Yeah. Because they're literally not allowed. So if you go back to last year and people are saying, well, maybe he worked out with him last year. You're not allowed. He was the Eagles quarterbacks coach. You can't work out with him. Now he's unemployed, so he can. It's very strange. I don't. It's very, very strange. And the fact that he's working out with them should be a clear indication that he likes Scott Leffler. And
well, that's fine if he likes him. Do you think there was subliminal messaging intended?
Well, yeah, I do. I think it was intended for people like me to see it and say, oh, what?
Right.
I mean, so he didn't want Parks Frazier. So anyway, going back to when I asked Nick the question, he said, well, He's got history with this style of offense, Parks Frazier. With Miami, he was down in Miami with McDaniel. And he's sort of like a bridge. He said he was like a bridge from the old offense to the new offense, which makes some sense. I'll buy it. Plus, he likes him in general. He worked with him in Indianapolis. So it might be as simple as that. He's given the guy who likes the job, but boy, if your quarterback who's, is got to learn all these new things, is happy with the quarterback's coach, I mean, does there really need to be a change there? You already got the scapegoat, and everybody's focused on Kevin Patullo. Nobody's focused on Leffler.
Was it a shot at Nick?
Yeah, maybe. Just shot. Well, it was just, a little bit passive aggressive to the Eagles as a whole, I would say.
Do you? That's what I'm asking. Like, do you think the Eagles made that decision collectively? Do you think it was a Nick thing who wanted these new coaches? And maybe that's why Howie, when given the chance to defend her, he didn't really defend Sirianni. He kind of defended Howie. So, in other words, Howie might be thinking the owners moved on from the coach and the quarterback before, and I'm the common denominator. Let me separate myself once again from coach and quarterback. Defend my front office because I know I'm going to be the constant, or at least I want to be the constant. Jalen's over here defending himself. Nick might be making decisions for his coaching staff.
Well, Nick hires the coaches. Again,
Right.
I'm going to give a plug to our show. I've been telling that for years. Now everybody else is plugged into it. Nick's hiring the freaking coaches. So it's Nick's decision. If you want to blame somebody, blame Nick. Now, I do think there's, again, I talk about Jeffrey Lurie. Nick's very well aware he had to do something. It's not like he's very, as I often say, he's very politically savvy. So he knew he had to move on from Kevin Patullo. So that factors into it. But again, when you get down to the positional coach level, and even though quarterback is probably the highest profile one, because quarterback's the highest profile position, I don't think Jeffrey gets too involved at that level. If you say he's doing a good job, he'll say, all right, well, that's fine. And then, when he hired Sean Mannion, the goal was to give him some people he was comfortable with. And that's why, Ryan Mahaffey's here. Chris Cooper's here to a certain extent, but he's got no relationship or no evidence with, Parks Frazier. Parks is more of a Sirianni guy than anything, although he has some experience in a similar style, but only 1 year basically with Miami. So, I mean, and maybe it just turned into something like, I don't believe Nick is actively saying, oh, Jalen likes this guy and I'm going to get rid of him. I don't think that's what happened. Let me make that clear. I think it's probably like he doesn't give a shit either way. And then my hot take, which I rarely like to do, but my hot take is Jalen saw all the Eagles are trying to send him a message through the media, and he tried to send them a message back.
Yeah, I think I see it the same way.
That's what I think happened. And Jalen said Jalen doesn't get too involved with the coaching staff, which he said in the past. It's not, it's not his job. So my from Nick's standpoint, I think he didn't think it was a big deal. And it probably wasn't a big deal. And I think this was, a little bit of a shot off the bow.
I just wonder what does the owner think, because the owner's had moments where he doesn't like Nick Sirianni, or at least it's been reported that he almost moved on from Nick Sirianni. So if Jalen, who the owner evidently really likes, based on what we heard earlier this offseason, is publicly saying, "Hey, head coach, why'd you fire the quarterback coach that I like?" I wonder what the owner thinks of that.
Well, the overly effusive Jalen Hurts stuff, I do, and I made a big deal out of it as well. But I do think that people, overplay that. Like, Jeffrey's not aware of what it would mean to be tepid about his quarterback. I mean, he's also, and BLG brings this up a lot. If you see him in the box during games watching this offense and the disgust on his face, he's also well aware of that.
Yeah, but some people
So,
like to say he thinks it's Nick.
well,
I mean, Jeffrey could have a blind spot there.
I guess, but I don't think he does. I think he's too smart for that.
So you think it was lip service about Jalen?
Well, no, I think he likes him a lot personally, but I think he's aware that, and I think he's very proud of the way he represents the organization by and large. I think that stuff is real. But I do think he knows there's holes in his game that are part of the reason why the offense is so limited in the passing game. I do think he's aware of that. So, two things can be true at once. He's very, he's been a great leader and all that kind of stuff. And I think he calls him the most mature or whatever, 25-year-old at the time, but now 27,
Just feels like these guys aren't all rowing in the same boat. That's all.
Well, they probably aren't right now.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem. I mean, it's a team game. You got to all be rowing in the same direction, and in the same boat in order to have the level of success that the Eagles want to have.
Well, you can fix that, but you know what fixes that? Winning. That'll fix it.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I said yesterday. Winning.
Everybody's upset when you lose. And again, they don't even lose that much, but I digress. I mean, if they win 13, 14 games, everything's fine. Till they lose in the playoffs. And then it's a catastrophe again. But I mean, that's the burden of high expectations. Win or you're a catastrophe. And it's better to have high expectations than low expectations. I think
Thomas says subliminal social media post sounds like a healthy relationship to me.
Well, yeah, look, social media is a pox on society. I mean, it's think about what are we, year 5 or year 6? Are we in year 5? Did we figure that out? Are we in year 5 or year 6?
On the show?
Yeah.
I don't know. It started April of 2021. You tell me. You're the genius here. Come on.
So
we're going in the year. It started 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I guess we're in year 6 now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit, Johnny Mac. That's a long time, dude.
Think about, and that's it's long, but it's not, a lot of people have been around for the entire run. Think about how many times we've talked about people on social media and what they've said on social media, from CJ to Slay to AJ.
Jalen's much more intentional than that.
No, I agree, but social media as a whole is a pox on society, is my point.
Yeah.
And rarely does any good come of it. Rarely. And it's happened to so many players. Even that's why I said, we've been on the air for going into 6 years. And how many times have we talked about guys and what they've said on social media? Because people, I say it all the time. You hand somebody a baton and they can go any fucking way.
My favorite analogy that you use, which may or may not apply to this, but my favorite analogy that you use that I've now used in my own life and I've used to deflect things in my own life is the GPS one. If you're predetermined on a destination, it doesn't matter what turn you make, you're going to get to the same destination. I use that one a lot, Johnny Mac. That's a winner.
Yeah. Thank you. It is a winner. But I mean, that's it's because it's everybody understands it. You're in your car, you hit construction, you got to make a right turn. Eventually it's going to recalibrate and get you to where you're going. And too many people have, work backwards when they're talking about a particular subject, and they already know where they're going. Then they're going to get there no matter what. Happens a lot in sports and politics and things like that. So, for all the AJ people, we were lying to them. No matter what, they were going to get there. Now they got a memory hole it because it's real. They got a memory hole it, and they will. Just one thing, another one I say that is very, very true. Not as good, but very hypocrisy. Hypocrites don't care about hypocrisy. So you can point out their hypocrisy, but they don't give a shit. So you're not slamming the football. They just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, which kind of goes with the GPS thing, right? Because they've set their destination on being a hypocrite, and that's why they don't give a rat's ass where you detour.
They don't care. So they just memory hole one thing and go to the next thing. But nobody was lying to you about AJ, which has now become abundantly clear. But it's okay. I don't mind it from fans, because fans just don't believe, one of their favorite players don't want to be here. I get that. It's the pseudo reporters who are like, the real reporters are lying to you. No, we're not. Those are the only people that bother me.
Well, fair enough. All right, good stuff there. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Interesting comments from Jaylen over the weekend. John, they were at the NovaCare complex yesterday. I know you guys don't get any availability. When is your go?
Oh, no, we don't. Other teams give availability.
Of course they do. The Eagles are like the Gestapo. It's like,
oh my God. Yeah, they're not, unless the NFL forces them to do it, they're not doing it. And they're not, other teams don't have to do it, but they do it because they recognize it's actually good for their organization.
Yeah, it is.
The Eagles are hypercentric because of stuff like this, and they're like
state TV. It's what they're like, dude. They're like state TV.
So,
people love the state TV. That's what I get a kick out of. They all love the state TV.
Well,
they fall for it. All you suckers who are listening who fall for the state TV, don't be suckers. State-run
media, I call it.
Yeah.
The Politburo is telling you how to think down there. You're not getting, but I mean, they showed some pictures. Obviously, you mentioned Jalen, Quinyon, Cooper. That's all we get. Like guys showing up. For voluntary work. And it was noticeable. Hollywood Brown. I'm just going through the pictures. Braden Mann. Braden Mann showed up.
Yeah. Braden Mann. Shout out to Braden Mann.
New big contract.
Guy was needed last year, man. Like all them 3 and outs. We're gonna potentially need him again unless Sean Mannion delivers the goods.
Jalen Carter. He's been around all basically. He's been working out in South Jersey. So yeah, I mean, they generally have very good attendance for voluntary work, and some of the veterans, they'll come in one day and leave. If they have something to do, it's not and they're not allowed to do football stuff at this stage. Again, everything is very strictly collectively bargained, and by that I mean on-field football stuff. It's just strength and conditioning. It's rehab, physical rehab for injured players, and you're allowed to meet for the first time. This is the first time. Yesterday was the first time they could meet with Sean Mannion. like the offensive players. So you can meet now. And April 20th was the first day that could happen. And the on-field stuff doesn't start till late May. So you have a 9-week off-season program. The first 2 weeks are phase 1, which is what they're doing now. Then phase 2, you can do some on-field stuff, but no offense versus defense. And then phase 3, which is the most important part, is the OTAs and the mandatory minicamp.
Yep. All right. Good stuff there. Johnny Mac, let's get into the Eagle only mock. We're 2 days out. You mentioned that you started yours. I'd like to start there if you're willing to give it on the show.
Yeah, well, I already forget. I know I took Caden Proctor.
They're so meaningless to John that they don't even take up a
in my defense, I got a lot of shit going on this week in my defense.
No, I know you do. Yeah.
Caden Proctor was, and I put Garrett. Garrett's where I stopped at 4th at 114 overall. So
you did end up.
Oh, I did in the second round. I traded for Greenard, so now it's coming back to me. So I used a second round pick to trade for Greenard.
So that was what, 54?
54.
54.
And I can't remember who I
did you project a contract for Greenard?
Yeah, I projected 25 to 30, somewhere in that range, probably a little bit more than 25.
2 years, 3 years?
No, I just think they'll give him an extra year and try to give him a bunch of money up front and try to work it that way. And make it look better on paper. So, but that's what I did. The one I can't remember is who I took at 98. The third rounder, 68 and 98. So it'll come to me as I'm doing it, because I'm looking at my list of players they've shown some interest in. And obviously, Delp is one. I had him taking them to Oscar Delp at 98. And then I still got to get to 137, 178, and 197. And boy, I can't remember it's got to be a receiver, but I can't remember who I went with. And I want to be consistent. That's the problem. So hopefully it comes to me. But, I did start looking at day 3 guys who I think they might be looking at. And one of them is, as I said, the most notable one is obviously Garrett Nussmeier, who I think might fall because of what went on with his medicals. But beyond him, I mentioned Caleb Douglas from Texas Tech. He's a potential day 3 guy. Jude Bowery and Isaiah World, who are offensive linemen, BC for Bowery. World is from Oregon. We mentioned earlier in the show, Luke Altmaier, the Illinois quarterback, but right now they'd have to get back in the draft. I don't think they take him in the 6th round, but you never know. And then Georgia Tech running back Jamal Haynes, because he's interesting to me because he's a very good pass catcher out of the back. He used to be a receiver. That's part of the reason. But he doesn't really run like a receiver. He's like a 4-5 guy. So they moved him to running back. He's just very natural catching the football. And they need that. I don't know if they need it because it's not Jalen Hurts'
That's what I mean. Are they going to use it? It'd be nice to have it, but will they use it?
Well, but my point is they want to pound the square peg in the round hole. So from their standpoint, they need it.
Right. It's fair enough.
No, I don't think it's going to be valuable, but they think they need it. So he's a very interesting one to me, So if I go backward, so I'll just do it that way real quick. 197 is the last pick, and that's where I would pick the kid from Georgia Tech, Jamal Haynes. At 178, so that's the 5th round pick. That's where I think they're going to draft the Texas Tech receiver, he's got AJ Brown like size, 6'2", 6'3". He's very fast, under 4'4" guy at that size. So Caleb Douglas, I think that's where you pick him. And the 4th rounders, I said at 114, Nussmeier. And then 137, I think, is where you take, if you can get him, Jude Bowery, who's pretty good upside, the Boston College kid. So I just did it on air. That's how I'm going to do it. So Nussmeier. So if I go the whole thing, Proctor, trade for Greenard.
So you get your tackle, you get your edge rusher.
Now, who did I pick at 68? Did I say? That's the one I can't remember.
That wasn't the receiver, right? That was later.
No, that was later. But I picked Delp at 98.
Delp at 98. Okay, that's what, round 4?
No, that's round 3.
End of round 3.
Round 4 is Nussmeier and Jude Bowery. Round 5 is Caleb Douglas. And round 6 is Jamal Haynes. So I just got to remember who the hell I picked in round 3. It'll come to me. Otherwise,
was it a tight end?
No, Delp's the tight end.
Oh, duh. But Delp was a wide receiver? No, you picked that in 4. Edge you got, was it a safety?
Oh, yeah, it was Jalen Kilgore. Thank you.
There you go.
Kilgore at 68. Thank you.
All right, Kilgore at 68.
There
That's pretty good. Now, that's up the top of the dome. That's pretty good, Johnny Mac.
Man.
Yeah. Come on, man. You say you're getting old. That's sharp wit right there, Mr. McMullen.
Well, now, I mean, I forgot it. I just did it last night.
But that's a lot off the top of the dome piece.
Well, I started looking at the day 3 guys because day 3 guys are more difficult. So to try to piece together. But yeah, I like again, I wasn't. I think I did the one trade with Greenard, but when it comes to trading up and things like that, that kind of stuff is just impossible to.
It's
figure
pie
out
in the sky whenever people do that.
Yeah.
I get why.
Well, there's certain years like when Jordan Davis got drafted, I predicted him moving up from 15 to 13 and taking him. So when it's like little, you can maybe sometimes put 2 and 2 together. But when you're talking about, leaps from 23 to 16, that's really difficult. So I don't think Proctor will be there at 23, but I think that's the player they want. So to me, it's more of the, can they get the player they want? And to me, probably not, but we'll see how it shakes out. You never know. Detroit might like Blake Miller or Max Ionesher. You never know. But ultimately, I think Proctor's going to go higher, but I do think that's the player they want.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think they could like him. You think he? Well, I don't know. I'm like back and forth on him. I do a lot of these mocks and they're stupid because Proctor's like always there at 23, and I'm like, is he going to be there? I don't think he's going to be there at 23.
No, well, I mean, those just, those mock drafts are just, sometimes you get they're random and sometimes you get like a really good player and,
And what big board would you use? Let's do one. What big board would you use? PFF's big board, consensus big board?
oh, I don't use any big board.
I know. I'm saying if we did one for this exercise, look. I'll show you.
Boy,
If we
I guess,
did one here,
I guess,
you can do look, you can do like big boards. You can do PFF big board. You can choose an analyst big board. You could do elite big board. I don't even know what that means. Consensus big board 416.
I mean, I guess I'd use Jeremiah's or Manicherians. Those are two guys I respect.
Yeah, they're not on here, but I would use those too. Those would be good ones. I'd like to use Ian Cummings as well.
Well, yeah, the guys we know. I don't know if Devin did one, but Ian, I'm sure Ian did one. Rick Saratella.
Here, let's use a big board here. Look how fast it goes. This is John. You're gonna laugh at this. All right, you're the Eagles. You do start. All right, they get there. Here you go. So you can see it picks everybody for, and then you just choose. You're the Eagles. So Mendoza, Bain, Sonny Stott, all off the board. All right, this is who you're left with in round one. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Omar Cooper, Blake Mill. There's Proctor. All right, so take Proctor. Right, let's take Proctor. All right, 54. You had him trading for Greenard.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a couple trade picks. Teams interested in the trade. We won't do that route. If you didn't trade it, where would you go? Chris Bell, Basantis.
No, that's going to screw up the rest of my draft. If I didn't, all right, because it won't screw up because I don't want to. Well, yeah, I take Stukes. Yeah, Danny Dennis Sutton potentially, but I already traded for Greenard, so he throws. I was going to take him in the third round, but I already traded for Greenard.
Well, forget Greenard for this one. You didn't trade for Greenard on this one.
Then for the people available there,
do you go Chris Bell?
Yeah, I might have to go Chris Bell.
You already took the offensive linemen, so you're not going Basantis. Do you like Chase Basantis?
Yeah, I do.
I kind of like him too. Looking at some of his
like Dunker too, but I already took the offensive lineman.
Brazil, you can get Brazil,
but I can't take a.
You get to get corner. That's the problem with them. Yeah.
Well, he's not. They'll play him at safety.
Okay.
But yeah, I would take Chris Bell. I guess I'll be available options, and I can't trade.
Now you had 68, top of round 3. Stukes is still available. Trotter's there. Antonio Williams, Elijah Surratt.
Oh yeah, I would take. I would take Stukes in the third round. Yeah, I don't think I'll make it to the third round, but
so you think safety that would be a big need there. All right, so now you're at round 3, pick 98. Drew Aller, Markel Bell, Keyshawn Elliott, Zakee Wheatley. Already took Michael Trigg. You want that tight end now, right?
No, I don't want Michael Trigg though.
No, yeah, Delp is off the board, my friend. Delp is off the board. Where did Oscar Delp go? Oscar Delp. Ooh, he went earlier.
Yeah, he might go in the second round. Yeah, NFL teams like him.
I think he went in the second round here. I don't see his name, but
a little bit early for. I'm gonna hold off on tight end because I think you can get Eli Raritan on that second pick. So go back to all of them. Yeah. I don't like Drew Aller a little bit. Markel Bell. Markel Bell. I'm doubling up. They love Markel Bell.
All right. So you like it?
Yeah. Only because of the value.
Markel Bell. Now you're down at pick 114.
By the way, there's no fucking way Markel Bell's there in the fourth round, but I digress.
I agree. That's why I don't like doing these because so many of them are so off base. Yeah. But it gives people an idea of names late in the rounds and stuff like that. That's why I like
go to tight end and see if Eli Raritan is there.
All right, so tight end. Eli Raritan has been. Yep, he's there.
Take him.
Take him there. 114. He would have been here at probably 137 too.
Yeah, well, I don't.
That's all
believe
right.
that.
All right, 137. We looking for a quarterback or what?
No, Jude Bowery's there, but I've already taken two
Taking two
offensive
tackles. So
linemen.
this is what we've taken: Proctor, Bell, Chris Bell, Traden Stukes, Markel Bell, and Eli Raritan. So you got a corner, Traden Stukes. You project at safety, a wide receiver, and two tackles. Pretty good. We need an edge here, but I don't think you're getting a good one.
All right, give me Emmett Johnson. I need
Running
the
back?
heir apparent at running back.
You like him over? Do they have Singleton still there? You like Emmett over Singleton?
No sycophants today.
I love the way John dismisses the Penn State players. All right, Emmett Johnson, done.
No, I would have taken Danny Dennis Sutton.
Was he there?
No, earlier.
Oh, okay. All right. I was gonna say I didn't think he was there. All right, now we got 178 in round 5. They got what, 2 picks left, 178 and 197.
I might take a shot at Klubnik there.
Michael Toth, Julian Neal, Emil Wagner. Boy, we go edge rusher list. You want me to go Klubnik?
Well, give me the edge. Let me look at the edges.
I don't think there's any. I'll look.
I forgot. I don't get. I should have drafted. See, I should have drafted an edge rusher.
Contavious Hutchins, George Gums, TJ Guy.
Yeah. All right. Get out of that garbage.
Caden Curry. He's not awful, is he?
No, I'm gonna take the Emmett Johnson. Was he there, or did I already take him?
No, we took Emmett in 137.
Oh, I already took him. All right.
So
this is
178.
That's not bad for a quarterback.
Who else is available at quarterback? Taylon Green, Cole Payton is still there. Jalen Daniels.
I'm going to take Cole Payton over.
Do you want to wait though? We got one more pick at 197.
Well, then you're stuck with Altmaier. I don't want Altmaier.
I don't know. Peyton will probably be there based on this stupid thing. Doesn't mean he'll be there in real life, but he might be.
Yeah, he's not going to be there in real life. That's good value at this point for. Yeah. Cole Payton is.
So go Peyton.
Yeah, he's not going to be there, but
take him at 178.
They'll have him as a priority free agent, but he's not going to be there.
Close it out at 197. Caden Curry.
Yeah, well, I didn't pick an edge. So
John Michael Geilenborg, Eli Heidenreich, Tanner Koziol. A lot of tight ends here. Holy moly. Matt Golden, Bishop Fitzgerald. Who do you like, John?
This is why Caden Curry. This is why you don't want 6th and 7th round picks in this draft.
Yeah, because they're a bunch of scrubbies. All right, there's our draft. John, this is what we ended up with.
It's pretty solid.
It says we should have drafted Cassius Howell over Proctor. Shut up, PFF.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, I love the first 3 picks. You're probably getting redundant, but that's tremendous. Bell might go in the 2nd round. He's definitely going to go in the 3rd round.
It gave us an F for Eli Raritan.
Eli Raritan, very, very good player. Yeah, I don't know. Cole Payton, yeah. Why? Because he's a lefty?
I think it's based on its rank. See, like we took him 178, and PFF Big Board has him at 248.
Yeah, well,
that's what it's based on, though.
Yeah, I don't care about their big board.
Me neither.
Those are good players.
They fired all the people who made a good big board.
Yeah, that's true too. I don't know if anybody makes a good big board, to be honest.
Me neither. Maybe Ian Cummings does.
Well, it's just impossible to, every team thinks differently. So it's kind of like an exercise in futility.
That's not a bad draft, though, John. Caden Proctor, Chris Bell, Traden Stukes, Markel Bell. So you got 2 tackles, which I think is a good thing. Eli Raritan, Emmett Johnson, Cole Payton, and Caden Curry. I actually think Caden Curry is not a bad player. There's no way he's there at 197.
Well, they're going to get an edge rusher before that, but
this is how round 1 went. Mendoza, Bain number 2. Come on, PFS. Bain's not going number 2. That's why I didn't want to do this with John, because John just
Well, I mean
he's got his
that's why.
needle and he just pokes holes in everything.
Well, that's why I don't.
Yeah, no, it shows.
That's why I don't use those things. I mean, it's not even their fault. It's just random, and it's gonna sometimes Bain's gonna be way high, and sometimes he's gonna be in the right position, and that's and then like right there, that's absurd, right? The second pick in the draft is absurd, so everything else is affected by that, so it's useless. Exactly. Like if I saw that right at 2, I'd stop it and say, all right, this is you lose,
done.
There's a lot of people who do like I know a lot of writers who do their Eagles only mock draft. They'll use one of those things, and I'm like, I don't use them because the player, it's not realistic. So my goal is to pick guys the Eagles might pick. I don't even care if I get their spot right. Like if they pick a player that I picked, that to me is a win.
Right. I'm with you on that. Makes sense.
But yeah, there's, if you're like, I don't think, to be honest, as I said, Proctor, I don't think he's going to be there, but I think that's the player they want. So they're able to get him.
Round 1 here? No, the quarterback did not go in round 1 here. Ty Simpson.
Yeah, he might not go in round 1. I think he will, but it wouldn't shock me if he didn't. You're basically talking 1 or 2 teams, and they don't want them. Shit out of luck.
Yeah, that's true. All right, good stuff there. It was interesting to do that. I did want to do that with John. I thought Johnny Max that he gave before we did the simulation thing was good as well. So you got to look at who John's thinking about in later rounds for the Philadelphia Eagles. It will be interesting to see what they end up doing. John, right now they have 8 picks. What's your expectation on how many they actually end up acquiring in the draft?
Well, I don't think they care anything about getting back in the 7th round or the 6th round. I think they're more likely to pick up future picks if they do pick up.
Yeah, if they trade out, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Because again, they're willing to do that more than most because Howie knows he's going to be here. And he knows next year is probably going to be much deeper than this year. So if you look at 23, 54, 68, 98, 114, like I don't think they want to add picks from that group. They might use 54 or 68 to get Greenard. 98, they need to find a contributor. 114 is a nice 4th round spot. And then after that, it's like, take shots, take dart throw. That's where the passion meeting comes in. Pound the table for somebody. Does he have a high level trait that maybe can turn into something down the road?
We'll see. The problem with the one we just did is you're going to need to get an edge, and maybe that's where Johnny Mac made some sense trading for Greenard. I don't know if they're going to do it, John, but I understand why they do it or why they would if they end up doing it.
Yeah, they need an edge. They need a safety. They need a receiver. Operating on the fact that they might need a running back. They need a tight end. They need an offensive tackle. They have a lot of this is the most needs the Eagles have had since at least 2021, I would say, where they have legitimate needs. But they've done it at the same time. They've done a better job at draft proofing than almost anybody else.
Yeah, you're right about that because you said it earlier in the show. Like they could roll out and play a game technically right now if they wanted.
Yeah.
I saw Dalton was in the building yesterday. That was good to see. Old head Dalton. And, you know, sometimes you think these older guys who've been in the league wouldn't come to the voluntary stuff. But Andy Dalton was in the building yesterday, John.
Yeah, I didn't see Andy, but yeah, good.
I just saw a picture of him.
Yeah, I mean, new team, so he's a pro. He's gonna be in. He probably doesn't need it, but in theory, a new offense. Plus, you know, it's good to get to know your new teammates and everything like that. But certainly, I would say OTAs are not really important for 38-year-old quarterbacks who played 17 years or whatever he's played. He'll pick it up.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys, good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. We got about 20-something minutes left on the show today. Tomorrow we'll have Gil and BLG hopefully in for our Wednesday edition right before the NFL draft. Yesterday we had some Jeff Kerr on here, so good stuff. I'm going to try and get Ian Cummings back this week, and maybe even some of them after the draft is always good, John, to evaluate the class. You know, so
yeah, we got to get Devin back, Rick back.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Ian, Devin, and who am I missing? And Ian, Devin, Rick
Saratella.
Rick Saratella back for next week too. After the Eagles have their full class, that'd be good to see. John, I have a weird feeling that Howie's going to make a splash. I don't know what it's going to be, and I don't think Greenard is that splash. I think there's something coming. I don't know why. I'm getting that feeling. Yeah, maybe. Well, I said this, you know, Celia was like, in what world could they trade AJ on draft night? And I'm like, if the return is greater than, you know, the hit of the $40 million in 1 year. And what could that look like? Imagine if they got Francis Mogiai at pick 13. By trading.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna add AJ to 23 and go up.
No, me neither. I'm saying in addition to.
Well, that's what I mean. You mean AJ and 23 to move up?
No, I mean like if somebody's willing to give you a top pick for AJ. I mean, Dexter Lawrence just got traded for 10. Now I know that's different, obviously, different position, different player, but I don't know. Maybe somebody's stupid, John, and they'll give a.
Well, you can never say never, but I doubt that.
I mean, what if they walk out of there with Kenyon Sadiq at 13 and Caden Proctor at 23? You got your tight end and your tackle of the future, and Howie Roseman does what he said he was going to do: starts drafting offense.
Yeah, I think AJ's health is problematic. I think that's pie in the sky.
Yeah, so they're not getting that
high. And even, you know, the reason I think is pretty spot on. And again, if you've been listening to the show, my third look, a future pick is going to be better from the Patriots than a current pick. And he'll get the first rounder. I don't know what it looks like. I've been saying this. It'll be either just a 27 or 28 first rounder or conditional second rounder that will be easy to make into a first, as long as he plays and doesn't get hurt. That's what I think it's going to look like. Everybody else is falling in the line with that. Clearly, even they might be a better team, but the Patriots aren't going to the Super Bowl again. They were skipping steps. Good for them, but so I think from that standpoint, yeah, it's pretty clear what it's going to be. And by the way, I think that's a good haul for AJ Brown at this stage and in this situation.
You think it'll come post June 1? What are the chances you'd put on it being a draft day trade?
Very little, less than 10%. Yeah, it's coming post June 1st.
You think the deal's already done?
I don't think it's done, but I think each side is aware, and it's being very careful to make sure that nothing untoward is done. So I think they're both on board and understand what's going to happen on June 2nd.
We'll see. We'll see. The framework of it might be done. We'll see how much more they have to work out. Did you see the story, John, that came out? I don't know how much of it was true or not, that the Patriots were trying to stop the story or stop the photos getting leaked out or something like that. Did you see that?
I didn't see the Patriots. I saw Diana was.
No, I saw that the Robert Kraft attempted to have the story
I
next
did
to the
not
New
see
York
that.
Post. I thought
Evidently, the New York Post gave her every opportunity to shut it down and said,
Yeah.
"Hey, if you, just send us a picture of the friends or something," and couldn't do it.
Yeah, it says Robert Kraft reportedly tried to kill the story of head coach Mike Vrabel's alleged situation or whatever it was with Diana Rossini.
Well, Robert's had his own issues, so maybe
Yeah, right. Yes, he has.
so maybe he's in tune with but I didn't see that. I saw that
I don't trust that Pats, man. I wouldn't trade for a conditional too. They'll be sitting AJ for the last 3 games so he gets under 75%. He's got a hamstring.
well, they might if they stink, but I don't think they'd stink. Yeah, you can play that game, but if you think about it from Carson Wentz, people forget Indianapolis was good. They were on the way to make the playoffs before they collapsed in the final 2 games. So they had to play him. So, I mean, that's a risk if they're 7 wins and they know they're going to be out of the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to fall to that level in that crappy division. Where you might have the worst team in football, and it's not the New York Jets, it's the Miami Dolphins. And you might have the second worst team in football, the New York Jets, and Buffalo's good, but you got 4 wins right off the bat. If you play even mediocre football, so they're not gonna be ball out of it. So there's always that chance, but I think very small chance.
Fair enough. Good stuff there. Appreciate everybody being here today. A couple days out from the NFL draft. Going to be interesting to see what the Philadelphia Eagles do and where they go. What do you guys think in the chat? Let me know what position you believe the Eagles should be taking in round 1. I have heard some people say, why take a tackle and put him on the bench? We need to re-up for this year. If Howie does that, John, and let's say he trades AJ for a future pick and takes a tackle, do you
Well,
think
I get it. I get it.
Preparing for the future more than trying to win in 26?
Yeah, I get the immediacy. It's always immediate. Maybe. It's like,
Yeah, it can't work that way, though.
you can't. What if you have to replace Lane, Landon, Dallas next year? You got 1 year to do it. He works in 3-year intervals for a reason. In the case of Proctor, if you get somebody like Proctor, remember, you could start at right guard and kick out the right tackle. So, he beats out Tyler Steen, then you have a good backup. And Tyler Steen. So in specific instances like that, depending on the player, you might start them out, which is what they did, obviously. With players in the past, if you think if you think about Cam Jurgens, he didn't even play his first year. Now he's a 2nd-round pick, but a little bit different. And then he started right guard before he got to center. So it was a multi-year thing. And they've been trying for years to find the heir apparent to Lane Johnson. Haven't been able to get it done. Tried to get it done. Haven't been able because you can't dictate the board. Dallas Goedert, we say, every year this might be the last year. So I get why people get tired of that, but he's closer to the finish line than the starting gun. We can all agree with that. With his Eagles career. Landon Dickerson, you don't know what you have from a health standpoint. You're losing AJ most likely, which you already have to start with that. So think about it from that standpoint. Like AJ still, as Howie will say, still an Eagle, but what has he done? He signed Hollywood Brown. He signed Elijah Moore, and now he's traded for Dontavian Wicks. He's probably going to draft a receiver. Can't just be about the moment all the time, 100% of the time. That's why you say, it doesn't work, but you have all these guys who go on after, oh my God, the Eagles lost Jalen Phillips. Oh my God, the Eagles lost this. They stink. And then, by the time free agency is over, they got a bunch of guys. Now, granted, not high profile guys, but draft proof guys. You get Rick Woolen, you get all these guys, but everybody's like in the moment. Well, they got worse today. You don't have to play tomorrow. But if they did have to play tomorrow, they could. There's not too many teams that can say that. And by saying could, I mean not the number of players. I mean effectively. They could play effectively. And this is before the draft even starts.
Fair enough. Here's a super chat from 2Nice06. What's up, brother? Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chat. He says Denzel Boston, if I'm not mistaken, is the son of the very good David Boston. Is that correct?
I would stay away from Denzel Boston, as I said. Very big receiver, contested catch guy, doesn't get a lot of separation, lacks explosiveness, not a yards after catch guy. Those are guys I don't like. Separation is what I look for in receivers, number one. Because what I want in a receiver is third when you gotta have it, it's 3rd and 7 with the season on the line, or 4th and 7 on the season on the line. I don't want to just throw up a fade route and 50-50 it. I want somebody who's going to generate separation so the quarterback has the ability to make a play.
You think AJ's
on the quarterback? What's that?
Like AJ's not really doing that anymore, is he?
Well, he did it throughout his career. I mean,
yeah. Well, I forget what it was. Somebody sent me this thing though. AJ got the least amount of separation or something last year, or his lowest.
Oh, he wasn't as good last year. There's no doubt about it. But he got a ton of separation early in his career with the Eagles. So, no, I'm not. And I've said it from the start. I would run away from Denzel Boston.
2Nice says, yeah, he kind of reminds me of JJ Arcega.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but he's going to be better than that. But he's not explosive enough to be a first-round pick.
The umbrella man at JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
Poor JJ. I was there. Bob Groats and I were 2 feet away from that picture.
Bob Groats must have had a field out. I miss Bob Groats. He's retired, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, no, he wasn't, because it wasn't that big of a deal. It was like his mother was there. It was family day, and she was hot and had that parasol thing. So He was waiting to do an interview with, I think it was Comcast or NBC Sports Philadelphia, whatever it is now. He was just waiting to do an interview standing next to his mom. And I don't know why people do what they do. I mean, people run with it.
I wonder what Bob is up to. Bob Groats was hilarious.
Oh, he's a great dude. He's gone off the deep end politically. I text with Bob all the time. He's great.
Hey, why Bob? Is Bob? I wonder if Bob's listening. Bob listens to our show sometimes. Did you know that? Sometimes he'll check in from X.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love Bob. Bob knows that.
What do you mean he went off the deep end politically? Like Les is kind of that way.
All these guys. I love Les. I love Bob. They get way too into. I'm like, look, you're arguing with idiots. You know, you got two sides. They're not moving. They're not going anywhere. You're not convincing them of anything.
And both of them kind of suck, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, they all suck. It's just the level of suck. Like, if you like, you know, what do you want? If you want, you know, if you're big into social issues, you want one side. If you're a little bit more into financial stuff, you want the other side. That's it, basically. Bang. Boom. I just solved the whole thing. So what do you care more about?
Johnny Mac takes some 18 words to sum up the political system in America. That's hilarious.
And they both suck. So it's just, you know, what are we arguing about?
Yeah, no, I don't
Less suckiness, slightly less suckiness, I guess.
I always tell people, just don't hate your neighbor. Don't hate people because of their political beliefs. That's not a good
well, that's dumb. I mean, people hate their own family members because
I know, crazy.
I mean, that you should really get some help if you're in that category, you know. And I don't mean the once a week stuff for $100. I mean, you need a team working on you around the clock. Because if you're you know, they treat these politicians like they're rock stars, and it's like they worship them. It's like they're awful people. Good people don't get into politics.
It's true. It's true. All right, Johnny Mac, good show today. We got about 5-6 minutes.
I shouldn't say that. There's some good people. I'd like, you know, Josh Shapiro's been on the show.
I think blanket, you're right though. At the end of the day, it's inherently
Corey Booker here in New Jersey, who I like. I know personally, I like him a lot, and I don't agree with a thing politically, but I just think he's a good dude. Like, people can't be like that. Like, I think I met him at the NBA All-Star game. He followed me on. He's a good dude. I don't agree with anything he says politically, but I'm not going to say, oh, he's a shitty dude. No, he's awesome. You know, so anyway, there you go.
Fair enough. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Good show. End it with a little political tangent. Not much of one though. All good there.
No.
Appreciate everybody listening today. We got about 5-6 minutes left on the show. It kicked off by Bob Groats. So, Bob, if you're listening and you want to come on the show and give us your opinion on what the Eagles
I told Bob I wanted to keep coming up, but you know, when you're not there every day, guys don't feel comfortable talking about. Well, at least
they're not as in tune as they were once were. You know.
Some don't mind, some do.
Here's a super chat. Look at this. I don't know how. John, you want to help me pronounce that name?
Pellycocker. E. Pellycocker.
I don't know how to pronounce that. E. Pellycocker 7947. What's up, brother? Thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, I'm out in the West Coast. I finally woke up early enough to watch live. Love the show. Look at that.
Yeah, it's always hard to get West Coast gas, man. Nobody wants to get up that early.
I guess it's 10 now. What is it, 7 o'clock out there right now?
Yeah, 6:55.
6:55 out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for watching, Pellycocker. We appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the super chat. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. We appreciate it. Here's 2 Nice 06 checks in again. He says, I really like Ted Hurst. What do you think, John?
Well, you know, gifted certainly, but lower level of competition. So you always got to be careful. I think he's a 3rd rounder type player. But yeah, I mean, Georgia State is Georgia State. So, but he's in the group. A lot of NFL. I think NFL teams like him better than most draft people online because he is so gifted physically and athletically. But he's raw, as you would expect, but incredibly. So he's he's the classic high ceiling, low floor guy. Boomer bust, if you want to say. He's going to be an outside receiver. He's almost 6'4", obviously. So he's going to be an X receiver.
Yeah.
He can run. But, he's got to improve his route running. Obviously he hasn't gotten a lot of technique work at Georgia State. So, but if you just want a physically gifted guy on late in day 3, I'd take a shot on him.
Yeah, I like him. I saw that name too. A couple other people in our chat brought him up. So I like Ted Hurst. I looked into him a little bit. Would be a good player. A lot of different ways to go in the draft, man. There's like 400 names, and a couple of them are good. A couple of them are not so good. So we will find out who prevails and who doesn't. Howie's done a pretty good job at the top of the draft recently, so I expect him to continue that run. Do you expect him to continue that run, John?
No. Simply because of the odds. I play the odds. It's not normal to have that many hits. And the old regression to the mean theory. So if I were a betting man, I would say, now, their philosophy is first round, they want to, find stars, Pro Bowl level players, second round, third round starters, and, contributors on down. But, I mean, they're on a heck of a heater, and at some point it's going to end. It just is, because it's inexact science and all that. But so if you're talking to me again, I'm talking about premium picks. So day 1 and day 2. So they got 4 of them. If they hit on 2, that's typically good. That's fine. And by hit, I mean, high level starters with those premium picks. But they've been going like 4 for 4 in that range, and that can't continue. If it does, I mean, they're already on a hell of a run, and it gets better from there.
Yeah, agreed. All right, good stuff. We'll see what they end up doing. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on a Tuesday? We're 2 days out from the NFL draft. I can't believe it's already here, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see. Something silly will come out today, whether it's somebody trying to get somebody to pass on somebody, some silly stuff will come out. But yeah, we're almost there. We've made it. We've almost made it. I can't say that. We'll say that after tomorrow's show, but we're that close. We've almost made it. It's almost draft time.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, good show, my friend. I will catch up with you tomorrow. Thanks for doing it today, my friend.
All right, thanks all. See you.
All right, my man. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Great show today. A little full Eagle mock all the way through. We got 2 versions of it from John. We got the one that he did without some BS simulator, and then we did the BS simulator. All right, so John poked the holes in the simulator like we knew he would, and we also got him to give us some names that he likes in those later rounds. So I thought that was a pretty good thing. Overall, good show today as well. I had to ask John about those Jalen Hurts posts. I didn't exactly know what to make of the Jalen Hurts post. I'm curious to see what even like a Jalenite thinks, even if it's pro Jalen, I'm fine with that. But like, how did you take it? Where's a Jalenite? Do we have any Jalenites in here? Mayan, are you a Jalenite? Siglord, are you a Jalenite? Keese, you might be a Jalenite. Fleming, no, you're not a Jalenite. Kimberly, are you a Jalenite? I don't think so. Where's our Jalenites? I know we got a couple in here. R&P must be a Jalenite. Or David LaPrade. Not you, BGG. All right. Kirsten, good to see Kirsten Carter in here. Is she a Jalenite? Brandon Howard is a Jalen. Just kidding. I'm not, but I love him. LOL. That means you're a Jalenite. Wild Bear, you're a Jalenite. That's all right. David is not. Is any? Come on, I need a Jalenite. All right, mine. So, what did you make of the? What did you make of the post of Leffler? Zander Dermello. What does Dermello mean? Is that like mean something? I've seen you comment this now like 4 times. Dermello in English. Dermello is an Italian phrase meaning tell me it. Tell me this or say it to me. Dude, what is that? That's like some ditty. Zander, talk to me. What are you saying, bro? Talk to me nice. Dermello in English. Characteristics. What is it? What do you? I'm assuming Spanish. Tell me. What the fuck does this mean, dude? Yeah, Alfredo. Yeah, chicken Alfredo. Alfredo Vic. What is this, bro? I'm a Tannerite. We got multiple Tannerites in here. Key says, I appreciate Jalen Hurts for what he is, but also understand that he be on some bullshit sometimes. Keith, thanks for being the realest dude. That's so true. I appreciate him for what he is too, but he be on some bullshit when it comes to throwing the football, especially. Pelly Cocker, welcome to the party, baby. This guy's a Fleming name through and through. He says, if I had it my way, we would keep AJ and trade Hurts. Wow. But since we are locked into a contract with Jalen and there doesn't seem to be any suitors, the money just doesn't add up to keep Arthur. That's hilarious. All right, Brad. Come on, bro. Chill. Talk dirty to me, he says. Come on, bro. It's ridiculous. Talk dirty. Fucking Professor Brad. Did Fredo ever answer what the heck Dermello means? Here we go. Puerto Ricans use it as what's up. What the F, Zander? I love my Puerto Ricans, but they never said Dermello to me. I used to work at the Windrift in Avalon. It was great. And all the I told you, I told this story. I used to go to Wawa in the mornings almost every day. Or I was a bar back, so I would take them from the restaurant. But the general manager, Pete, would get pissed at me. Excuse me. I'd pick them all up a Red Bull. They all loved Red Bull. I'd pick them up a Red Bull, and incoming would be my plate of food all day. They'd make me the food all day. Sig Lord says, Zander, are you fired up? I'm not particularly a Flyers fan, so I'm not going to jump on your bandwagon or anything, but I did think they were going to win the series. Now, I'll say this. All right, I'll say this. I predicted the Flyers to win the series at the start. Okay? I predicted them to win the series at the start, but I will say this. This is not particularly the best spot for a young team to be up 2-0 going home. All right, and what I mean by that is they don't have a lot of playoff experience. Best of 7 is the best of 7. You got to win four hockey games, not 2 hockey games. And sometimes a two-game lead is the toughest lead to hold, just like a 2-goal lead is a tough lead to hold. So you have an experienced Penguins team who's played a ton of playoff hockey, who's got multiple Stanley Cups in the last decade or whatever it's been. They have extremely talented and veteran players, and guys like Sidney Crosby. They're now playing with maybe a sense of freedom. So if you're the Eagles, if you're the Flyers, you got to play out there like it's game 1. You can't come in here thinking, oh, we got a 2-game lead going home. We're in a good spot. Don't fall for that bullshit. Don't fall for that bullshit. But I did think they were going to win the series, and being 2-0 on the road going home is a pretty impressive feat. So I think the Flyers are in a great spot. Congratulations to all the Flyers fans. I will say this. I'm not a Flyers fan, but I'm a Philadelphia fan, and I want to see all Philly fans see some Flyers W's because I love it, man. I love the excitement that it brings. I love people getting back into hockey. I love people saying, oh, shit, I didn't realize how fun it was to watch this sport, you know? Sometimes being a good team is the way to is really just the easiest way to just catapult your popularity in the city, you know? How many people are going to be watching the Flyers that would never watch a Flyers game? And then they're like, damn, this is actually dope. You know, being a great team is the easiest way to build your fan base, to grow, to be a better organization, you know? So I am happy for the Flyers. I will say that. There's zero part of me that wants the Flyers to lose. I'd like to see them go the distance. But tell them it's Zander with an X. Have some respect for your pops. No, my dad's the one who wanted the Z, bro. Not the X. Come on, man. Uh-oh. Wild Bears says the Pens need to come back. Nah, they're not going to. Kareem says Johnny Mack is Republican. Cry about it, dude. Who cares? Kareem, you cry about a lot in this chat, bro. You were crying about people criticizing Jaylen Hurts. Now you're crying about Johnny Mack. I thought Johnny Mack just gave the most neutral political stance you could possibly take. It is Alexander. It is Alexander. It is Alexander. My dad wanted Zander to be with a Z. My nana used to fight him on it. Yeah, they did. They were slowing down in that game. But that one goal was freaking sweet. That was it Tippett who set that goal up last night? Was it Tippett who played it off the boards to himself? I mean, that was perfectly played. Sold the goal. I mean, got the goalie on the pump fake. I love Nana. I agree with her. Yeah, my Nana was an absolute stone cold legend. Stone cold legend. So, all right, guys. Not a long Zander time. I have some work to do outside the house, which means I got to leave. I got to be back for Cilio. So I got to do that. Everything I do has to require like a 30-minute drive. It drives me crazy. But I got to go and get that done. So I will accomplish that today and then probably have to head back to the studio tonight after Cilio. So probably won't leave here till 8 or 9 o'clock. And then we'll be home for the draft. We'll be back in the studio for the draft. All right. Back in the studio for the draft. So should be some good stuff. I'm excited for the draft on Thursday. I'm excited for the draft on Friday. I'm excited for the draft on Saturday too. So should be good. Should be fun. Should be a lot of new names coming to Philadelphia. Love all you guys. Hit that like button. See you next time, everybody.
EAGLES. Eagles.